Today I'm showing you how you can automatically generate post-meeting surveys like this using n8n agents. So essentially the flow is you have a meeting ends, you get notes. So in our example, we'll be using the Google Workspace notes, but it could be any kind of notes. And then automatically from these notes, you want to generate a tailor-made post-meeting feedback survey, right? So I'm going to show you how it works in n8n, so give you an overview of the entire flow and all of the components, and then we'll actually execute it so that you see how it works in practice. So the gist here is that we'll be using a couple of main components. So it's based on the Google Workspace component nodes, but of course it could be meeting nodes coming from another spot. So automatically we'll be getting the event and meeting nodes. We'll then be running this through an AI agent that is connected to the Weavely form building tool. So that's a sort of a capability that you can add to your n8n agent to generate forms and surveys. And then there's a human in the loop part where automatically a message is sent on Slack to the meeting owner to make sure that the survey works correctly. And then we send it to all of the attendees once it's approved. So I'll leave a link to the template at the bottom of this video so that you can see for yourself and tweak it. So I'll run through this and highlight the parts which are interesting from a configuration perspective. I think most of these are pretty standard. So there's a Google Calendar trigger. You actually get the event and then you typically have to wait. I didn't add a wait node here, but you might need to wait for the meeting nodes to actually be rendered and attached to the event. So that's what this thing does here. So it gets the event and it gets the attachments to the event and filters out your meeting nodes. So these are typically added to the event by Google. So once you have the meeting nodes, obviously you need to get the document to get the context and get everything inside of it. So this is this document right here, which we're going to test with. So I did a fictitious meeting with myself where I discussed firing myself. And so that's the summary of the meeting, next steps and the details. So once you have that document, this is the interesting part. So you use the AI agent node from n8n. In this case, we've connected it to OpenAI as a chat model. And then the core thing here is this MCP client right here, which uses Weavely as a tool. So I'll leave a link to the MCP of Weavely as well at the bottom of this video. And cool thing is that it works without authentication. So it has a whole bunch of tools to create forms and surveys. And well, basically you can just let the AI agent figure out what it needs to do. So to give you an idea, prompt is pretty basic. So we're telling it that it's expert in post-meeting surveys, right? Typical prompting stuff. Tell it that it needs to generate those based on the meeting nodes. Give it some general guidelines. And then we tell it that it has access to the Weavely Forms tool and give it the actual content of our meeting node. So it's going to use the MCP to build out that form. And then we need a output parser to make sure that whatever the AI returns actually just filters out everything and only returns the editor URL, so the URL that we can use in the human in the loop step. So by default, the Weavely MCP is going to return you a link that you can click on, and then it brings you into the product where you can either create your account if you haven't created an account, or the form gets transferred to your account if you already have one, and you can then further tweak it in there. And so we'll also be needing the share URL, so the URL that you can share with respondents. So you can just copy this from the template, and then we send a Slack message for approval, so to the meeting owner, to make sure that the survey is correct and that everything works as expected. And then eventually we send out the survey to the attendees. So let's execute the workflow, and then you'll see how each of these steps works in practice. Okay, so we've arrived at the human in the loop part. So if I open up my Slack, you can see I got a message here with a link to this new post-meeting survey, and I can approve it. So the first thing I'll be doing is actually checking it out. So as you can see, it's a post-meeting survey, right? So it's asking generic meeting stuff. So are the next deadlines clear and that kind of stuff. And then specific things about our meeting. So it talks about a performance improvement plan. And then of course, again, a couple of ratings, yes, no questions, that sort of stuff. So all in all, it looks okay. So the next step is making sure that we actually create this form, sort of publish it live so that we can share it with our events attendees. And you do this by just clicking that CDA button, and this brings you into Weavely. If you already have an account, if you don't have an account, you just sign up, it's completely free, and then you have the form and you're basically all good to hit approve on Slack. Or of course, you can just continue tweaking this manually, or just use Weavely AI if you want to change or tweak anything. So going back into Slack, we just hit the approve button. We got the thank you page, and then going back into n8n, you can see that the flow terminated and that we will get an email. All the attendees will get an email with the survey to actually take it after the meeting. So if I open up my email, you can see this email right here, which is sort of has basic styling. So of course you can tweak this, use the template and tweak it to your branding. So we have two links, one that you can just paste into the browser, or a button that people can press, which actually takes you to the survey straight away. So let's press that. And then you see that we have the survey that was created and that we automatically, semi-automatically approved, right? We said like, okay, we didn't tweak anything, this is fine. And then we can hit the press the submit button, and then you'll see all of that data coming into Weavely. And of course, you can then further tweak it. So for example, you could set up integrations. So if we open up the results tab, we can see the result that just came in. And then of course we can set up integrations so that we can get the data in Google Sheets, in Airtable, HubSpot, you name it. So there's a whole bunch of different integrations that you can set up with if you want the data from your post-meeting survey to actually be handled somewhere else. So that's the basics of it. So you use the Google Calendar event trigger, you then use the AI agent in n8n together with the Weavely MCP, and you automatically get a post-meeting survey out of that you can share with your meeting attendees.